any alcohol for 1 month. But will stopping alcohol for just 1 month actually have any significant health benefits compared to if you quit altogether? Well, today we'll discuss both of those scenarios and also address how many of the health organizations have recently changed their guidelines about what amount of alcohol is considered safe. Like they used to say, 1 to 2 drinks a day could be considered safe for males, and about 1 drink a day could be considered safe for females. So, we'll address why these guidelines have changed. And a little bit of a spoiler alert, it has to do with what alcohol really does to the human body. So, we'll discuss what alcohol does to you in the short term with intoxication and the hangover, but more importantly, what it can do to your body during the long term. Like what does it do to your brain, liver, stomach, and even how it can increase your risk of certain cancers. It's going to be an ethanolic one. So, let's jump into this anatomical and physiological awesomeness. So let's start with how the body absorbs and metabolizes alcohol, and then we can get into any of the negative consequences and what the new guidelines state about whether there's a safe amount that we can ingest. The type of alcohol that us humans ingest is ethyl alcohol or ethanol, but I'll just refer to it as alcohol from here on out. When we ingest and swallow alcohol, it will move down the esophagus and into the stomach. Now, if I open this other stomach, you can see this really cool inside lining called the tuna mucosa. The reason I'm showing you this is because some of the alcohol can actually be absorbed through the stomach lining and into the bloodstream. However, this is a small amount of about 10 to 20%, with the other 80% being absorbed by the small intestine. But it is important to note that alcohol absorption and how fast it enters your bloodstream does depend on the contents of your stomach, meaning the alcohol is absorbed more quickly on an empty stomach. But if, for example, there's fat and protein in the stomach, this will slow the absorption rate. And of more significance, this will also slow gastric emptying, or in other words, how fast the alcohol can move from the stomach and into the small intestine, where again the majority of that alcohol will be absorbed. And just to give you some numbers, on an empty stomach, alcohol blood levels could peak in about 30 to 60 minutes, whereas it could take 1 to 3 hours for those blood alcohol levels to peak if there was food in the stomach. Now, once the alcohol is absorbed from the stomach and small intestine, it will go directly to the liver. And many of you have likely heard that the liver does the majority of the work to detoxify the body from the alcohol. But understanding how the liver exactly does this is important because this will help us to understand some of the potential negative consequences of alcohol intake. Again, once the alcohol is absorbed into the blood from the small intestine, and that little bit that can come from the stomach, all the blood vessels coming from these organs will funnel into a vein called the hepatic portal vein that you can see I've drawn in right there. Now, as the blood passes into the liver, some of the alcohol will move into the liver cells called hepatocytes in order to be metabolized. And here we have my brown liver cell and the brown squiggly lines here. Not the scale, but we're inside of a liver cell here. But once we're inside the liver cell, or once the alcohol gets into the liver cell, it will first convert the alcohol into acetaldehyde. This occurs in the cytool of the liver cell. And this conversion requires an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase, as well as a coactor called NAD. You can see NAD going in and then coming out as NADH. And these enzymes and coactors will come back into our discussion in just a second and actually throughout the whole video. So keep them in the back of your mind. But what's interesting is that the acetaldehyde is actually more toxic than the alcohol itself and plays a huge role in some of the negative impacts of alcohol. So this next conversion is going to be very important. The acetaldehyde will then be funneled into the mitochondria of that same liver cell. The acetaldehyde gets converted to acetate, and this requires another enzyme called aldehyde dehydrogenase, as well as another NAD. Acetate can then actually be utilized for energy within the mitochondria, which will require some more steps, but nonetheless this is a much better option than having the toxic acetaldehyde building up. However, the reason I'm mentioning these enzymes and the coactor NAD is because these will be important when we get to situations of ingesting high levels of alcohol and/or chronic use of alcohol. I guess a little bit of a spoiler alert would be that we can get to a point where we overwhelm these systems, which can have some negative impacts on the body. But I do want to come back to when we absorbed alcohol through the small intestine, as well as that small amount that can be absorbed through the stomach. Yes, the blood coming from those organs does go directly to the liver, but only about 20 to 30% of that alcohol will be able to move from the bloodstream and into those liver cells for metabolism with that first pass of blood, which means about 70 to 80% of the alcohol will enter systemic circulation unabased. Some of this 80% of UN metabolized alcohol will reach places that can get rid of it. For example, about 5% of alcohol can be excreted through the kidneys, sweat glands, and even through the lungs, which is how you can smell alcohol on someone's breath and how the alcohol breathalyzer test can detect alcohol. But as the alcohol circulates throughout the rest of the body, it can freely pass into almost any cell as well as easily cross the blood-brain barrier and affect the neurons of the brain. When alcohol reaches the brain, it will interact with multiple neurotransmitters and receptors, creating disruptions in multiple brain regions. And we'll take a look at a few of these regions to help us understand some of the commonly observed effects of alcohol. The first that we'll discuss is the prefrontal cortex, which is this area of the brain that you can see here. The prefrontal cortex is involved in multiple activities, but to name a few, things like reasoning, thinking, planning, judgment, and impulse control. Suppressing this area of the brain with alcohol explains why people will often say and do things that they may not normally do without the assistance of alcohol. The hippocampus is another area affected by alcohol, and one of its functions is to form and store short-term memory, which explains alcohol's effect on memory and even the so-called blackouts that people experience at higher levels of alcohol intake. Next is the cerebellum, which is this beautiful-looking portion of the brain that coordinates movement and balance. And I'm sure you're not going to be too surprised that alcohol affecting this area explains why people can stumble, lose their balance and coordination, and this overall suppression of their motor function. Also, maybe you've experienced this or noticed this in someone else. Drinking alcohol tends to make you pee more. The reason for this is that alcohol inhibits the secretion of a hormone called antidiuretic hormone that is secreted from this amazing structure called the pituitary gland. And maybe you've heard of a diuretic. A diuretic makes you urinate or pee more. So antidiuretic hormone tells your kidneys to hold on to more water, thereby creating less urine. So if you suppress this hormone with the alcohol, your kidneys won't hold on to as much water, causing more urine output and potentially leading to the dehydration that can occur with alcohol intake. The last structure I want to mention is the medulla oblongata. And this is actually part of your brainstem. And this is an area you don't really want to be suppressing much as it controls basic vital life functions such as breathing, heart rate, reflexes like vomiting, and the gag reflex, which is important to help prevent you from choking. And alcohol's dangerous suppressing effects on the medulla obviously come at higher levels of alcohol intake. But this is what is responsible for the dangerous effects of alcohol overdose, sometimes referred to as alcohol poisoning, as this can depress respiratory centers, leading to hypoventilation, coma, and even potentially death. Now, you may remember me saying earlier that alcohol can freely pass into almost any cell, which means alcohol isn't going to just affect the brain. It will also affect many other tissues and structures. Have you ever wondered what actually happens inside your body when you drink alcohol, and more importantly, what happens when you stop? We often hear that a glass of wine is good for the heart, or that a little drink can help you relax. But is that the whole story? Today we're going to take a deep dive into the journey of alcohol through your body, from the first sip to the last drop, and explore the incredible transformation that occurs when you decide to take a break. This isn't about judgment, it's about empowerment through knowledge. So grab a glass of water, get comfortable, and let's uncover the truth about alcohol and your health. Let's start from the moment alcohol enters your system. You take a sip, and it doesn't just sit in your stomach. About 20% is absorbed directly into your bloodstream through the stomach lining, which is why you can feel the effects so quickly, especially on an empty stomach. The other 80% moves on to your small intestine, where it's absorbed much faster. From there, it's a non-stop tour through your entire body, delivered via your bloodstream, and the main destination, the organ that has to deal with the bulk of it, is your liver. Your liver is your body's superstar detoxification plant. It sees alcohol as a toxin, and its primary job is to break it down and get rid of it. The liver can only process a certain amount of alcohol per hour, roughly 1 standard drink. When you drink faster than your liver can metabolize, the excess alcohol continues to circulate in your bloodstream, which is what leads to intoxication. This process involves an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase, which converts alcohol into a compound called acetaldehyde. Now, acetaldehyde is even more toxic than alcohol itself. It's a known carcinogen and is responsible for many of the nasty effects of a hangover, like headaches and nausea. Your body then quickly works to break down acetaldehyde into a less harmful substance called acetate, which is eventually broken down into water and carbon dioxide. But what happens when you regularly overwhelm your liver? The constant work of processing alcohol can lead to serious problems. The first stage is often fatty liver disease, where fat builds up in the liver cells. The good news is that this stage is usually completely reversible if you stop drinking. However, if the drinking continues, it can progress to alcoholic hepatitis, which is inflammation of the liver. Symptoms can include fever, jaundice, and abdominal pain. Over time, this chronic inflammation can lead to cirrhosis, where healthy liver tissue is replaced by scar tissue. This scarring is permanent and severely impairs the liver's ability to function, which can be life-threatening. It's a silent process that can go unnoticed for years, which makes it even more dangerous. Now let's talk about the brain. That feeling of relaxation or euphoria you get from a drink. That's alcohol at work on your brain's neurotransmitters. It enhances the effect of GABA, an inhibitory neurotransmitter that calms down your brain activity, making you feel relaxed and less anxious. At the same time, it blocks glutamate, an excitatory neurotransmitter, which slows down your thinking, speech, and movements. This is why coordination and reaction time are so impaired when you're drunk. The problem is, with long-term heavy drinking, your brain adapts. It starts to produce less GABA and more glutamate to try and maintain balance. So when you stop drinking, your brain is suddenly overstimulated, which can lead to withdrawal symptoms like anxiety, irritability, tremors, and in severe cases, seizures. Alcohol also messes with your brain's reward system by increasing the release of dopamine, the feel-good chemical. This creates a powerful cycle of reinforcement, making you want to drink more to chase that pleasant feeling. Over time, this can rewire your brain's circuitry, leading to cravings and addiction. It's a physical change in your brain that makes it incredibly difficult to just stop. It's not a matter of willpower, it's a matter of brain chemistry. And it doesn't stop with the liver and brain. Alcohol impacts nearly every system in your body. Let's look at your heart. While some studies have suggested moderate red wine consumption might have some benefits, heavy drinking is undeniably harmful. It can lead to high blood pressure, irregular heartbeats or arrhythmias, and a weakening of the heart muscle, a condition called alcoholic cardiomyopathy. Your digestive system also takes a hit. Alcohol irritates the lining of your stomach, increasing stomach acid and leading to gastritis, ulcers, and acid reflux. It can also damage the pancreas, leading to pancreatitis, a painful and dangerous inflammation. What about sleep? You might think a nightcap helps you drift off, and it does, initially. Alcohol is a sedative, so it can help you fall asleep faster. But the quality of that sleep is terrible. It suppresses REM sleep, which is the most restorative stage where your brain processes emotions and consolidates memories. That's why you can sleep for 8 hours after drinking and still wake up feeling exhausted and mentally foggy. You're not getting the deep, restful sleep your body and brain desperately need to repair and recharge. And let's not forget the impact on your appearance. Alcohol is a diuretic, meaning it makes you urinate more, leading to dehydration. Dehydrated skin looks dull, dry, and more prone to wrinkles. The inflammation it causes can also worsen skin conditions like rosacea and psoriasis. Plus, Alcoholic drinks are often packed with empty calories. A single pint of beer can have as many calories as a slice of pizza, and cocktails with sugary mixers are even worse. These calories don't provide any nutritional value, and the body prioritizes metabolizing alcohol over fat, which can contribute to weight gain, especially around the midsection. Okay, that all sounds pretty bleak. But here's where the story gets incredibly hopeful. The human body has a remarkable capacity for healing. When you remove alcohol, the magic begins, and it starts faster than you might think. Let's walk through the timeline of what happens when you quit. Within the first 24 to 48 hours, your body starts the cleanup process. Your blood sugar levels begin to normalize, and you'll start rehydrating. This is also when withdrawal symptoms can peak for some, so it's important to be in a safe environment and seek medical advice if you're a heavy drinker. After just 1 week without alcohol, you'll likely notice a huge improvement in your sleep. Your body will start to re-establish a normal sleep cycle, spending more time in that crucial REM stage. You'll wake up feeling more rested, with more energy and mental clarity than you've had in ages. Your skin will also start to look better as it rehydrates. That puffiness will begin to subside, and your complexion will look brighter. Move on to 1 month, and the changes are even more profound. Your liver is breathing a huge sigh of relief. Liver fat can decrease by up to 15 to 20%, significantly reducing your risk of fatty liver disease and improving its overall function. Your risk of various cancers, including mouth, liver, and breast cancer, begins to drop. You might also notice you've lost some weight without even trying, simply by cutting out those empty liquid calories. Your wallet will be heavier too. After 3 months, the benefits continue to stack up. Your blood pressure may start to lower, reducing the strain on your heart and blood vessels. Your brain cells will have started to repair, leading to better concentration, memory, and cognitive function. That mental fog will have lifted, and you'll feel sharper and more focused. Fast forward to 1 year of being alcohol-free. The transformation is incredible. Your risk of heart disease and stroke will have significantly decreased. Your liver will be much healthier, and your risk for several types of cancer will be substantially lower. You'll have saved a significant amount of money, your relationships may have improved, and your mental health will likely be in a much better place. You've given your body the ultimate gift, the chance to heal and thrive. Quitting alcohol is not just about avoiding disease. It's about gaining life. It's about gaining better sleep, more energy, clearer thoughts, a healthier body, and a deeper connection with yourself and the world around you. It's about reclaiming your mornings and your mental space. If you're thinking about taking a break from alcohol, whether it's for a week, a month, or for good, know that you're making one of the best possible decisions for your health. It's not always an easy journey, and it's okay to ask for help. Talk to your doctor, a therapist, or a trusted friend. There are incredible communities and resources available like Alcoholics Anonymous or online support groups that can provide guidance and encouragement. You don't have to do it alone. Think of it as an experiment. Try it for 30 days and just see how you feel. Pay attention to your energy levels, your mood, the quality of your sleep, and how your body feels. The results might just surprise you and inspire you to keep going. Your future self will thank you for it. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope this gave you some valuable insight into how your body works. If you found this helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more content on health and wellness. And remember, taking care of your body is the best investment you can ever make. See you in the next one.